BJ O'Neill here with the Business Coaching Success Podcast. So glad you're here, where I share with you strategies, tools, and tips to be able to grow your business coaching practice to six figures and beyond as a Christian business coach. Let's jump in. It's an episode today that I paused because it's one of those episodes when we talk about challenges, and specifically embracing the challenge, turning trials into triumphs. We're essentially saying how challenges actually help build our future as Christian business coaches. It's an easy conversation to have. It really is. Maybe not entirely easy, but it's very difficult to actually walk out. I think for most people who are at least frank and honest to be able to say, hey, life is hard. It really can be hard. But when you understand as a believer, like you got to remember that if you've just been listening to me for a while, or this is your very first time, my framework starts with every single thing that we do, including coaching business owners, starts from a biblical framework. That's just who I am. That's what I represent. And so when we apply that to growing a business coaching practice, and we look at things, the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything between, all the factors that you have to do, you still start from a biblical perspective. And you got to understand that anytime that you set out to grow anything, there's going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be some that you may be aware of, and there's going to be some that you have no clue that are going to really, it could feel like they take you off under your feet. And I think that part of that, at least is what I'm learning over the last few years, my own self. It's all about the lack of preparedness and lack of expectations. In other words, a big believer in goal setting. I'm a big believer in dream casting. I'm a big believer in setting, milestones and rocks and all those things. You have to do those things, creating KPIs, having numbers to measure by. But because all of those end up being a positive outlook in what they're going to do to attach to where you're wanting to go and the things that you want to do in life and so on, when we don't also add into, look, we also need to peek around the corner to see what challenges could arise, we kind of get shocked. So we have to be realistic to understand that, number one. Number two, when we look at it through the lens of believerhood, we look at James 1, 2, and 3. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. And there's numerous verses that you can go on and on and on about just the value of being tested and the growth and the perseverance that comes from that. Now, before anybody sends me an email, I am fully aware that in that scripture, the reference is about actually their spiritual faith being tested. I get that. There's plenty of others too that just point to, how growth, how God and how Jesus talks about growth from a biblical perspective, and that challenges are a part of producing that growth. So when we understand that, it's not that we have to just I absolutely love challenges. I'm not suggesting that so much. I think we understand that I love the outcomes of what I'm going to learn through the challenge. A few things to consider. Number one, growth through adversity. It's essential for building yourself and for building your professional self. When you have some adversity, you're learning some things. It's, giving you some callus to being able to handle it the next time. It pushes you out of your comfort zone. It encourages you to, and this is the big part. Challenges pushes you to develop new skills, to learn new things, to adapt, and to innovate. As you're building your business coaching business, especially in the very beginning, there's going to be things that you just don't know. And you're going to learn them because of the adversity, the challenge, or the thing that didn't go right. You do a workshop, nobody shows up. Those kinds of things that they're going to happen. I'm reminded every time I talk about, planning events and workshops and whatnot, if you're familiar with John Maxwell, if you're familiar with his story, as he began his own journey into leadership development. He'd been pastoring for many years. And the very first event that he did, they promoted it like crazy. They gave away, it's a free event. They gave away tickets like crazy. And I've lost track of how many hundreds of tickets they gave away. Interacted with people, you name it. And 13 people showed up. Now you tell me. Based upon how people behave today, a lot of people that would be in that situation would have been like, you know what, this is not worth it. And they're done. Rather than you have the application of, okay, I'm going to learn from this. Was there something that we didn't do right? What will we do differently? And you do it again, essentially. And that's what adversity does for you. It absolutely can be a tool. It's just the way that your mindset and the way you have to frame it to be able to, because if you don't learn from those mistakes and adjust from them, then you're never going to get out of the wheelhouse of constant challenges and mistakes. Resilience. Growing anything. I don't care if you're growing a garden. It's going to take some resilience to go through the pain, to go through the obstacles. Those obstacles strengthen you and your ability to handle the future in a very big way. And the last one is empathy and understanding. So you got to understand something. If you're sitting with a business owner, you're working them, you're helping them to build their business, you're coaching them along, business building principles and practices. They too go through a ton of adversity. They too go through a ton of challenges. And so when you're going through your own challenges, it's giving you the ability to truly empathize and understand. There's no way. I don't care if you're an athlete. I don't care if you're teaching. I don't care if you're in the ministry. I don't care what it is. You're going to be faced with different types of adversities. Some are just what's the word? They're more just antagonistic challenges, like software not working correctly, or things like that. Others will be the problematic issues where personalities. Like I mentioned at workshops, a workshop not going well. Those things, may show up from time to time. And again, it's all about the framework of it saying, you know what? I am very aware that I'm going to face some adversities, and I'm very aware that I'm going to face some challenges in this quest. Lord, teach me what it is I need to know through every single challenge. The very small, the ones that just irritate you, to the ones that could be, really big challenges. They all matter. They're going to come around here and there, but the coach who wins, and I'll leave you with this, the coach who wins, the ones that gets into the top 3% of the industry, they're the ones that, number one, they recognize they're going to have them. Bigger than that, they're prepared in a way to adjust, adapt, innovate, and learn, so that if any of the challenges, we don't like to talk about this, but some of our challenges comes through our own doings. Some of our challenges come through our own mistakes. A lot of debt today is from our own choosings. Maybe not all of it. Sometimes emergencies arise. But, the extra vacations, the bigger the more out to eats, those things happen, right? And so when we're building a business, some of those challenges also arise because of our own choosings. And so we have to learn not to repeat a mistake, or learn to not to repeat something that I did that I didn't know that was a mistake, and certainly innovate as to how to reduce the noise. In other words, being more efficient, being more able to do more with very little, and so on. And so the coach who's willing to adapt their mindset and to understand that and to go through it and to view it in that manner is the one who has the chance to truly being in the top 3% of the coaching industry. And quite frankly, it's really not that difficult. Because so many people today, I wish this was not true, but it is. So many people today just aren't willing to walk through the challenges. They get one little hiccup and they want to give up. And if that happens, it's like, well, you really weren't meant for this anyways. You probably aren't really meant for growing any kind of business. And I don't mean that to be that arrogant or ugly at all. It just takes, And if those, I have friends who, they're football coaches, they're basketball coaches, and so on. It's the same thing. You're working with a lot of people. You're playing a game. You're having to build people. There's challenges. But you look at some of the best athletes in the world, and they'll tell you, if you listen to their story, the Tiger Woods of the world, the Tom Brady's of the world, the list goes on and on and on. And they'll tell you that the adversities and the challenges are what built them into who they become in terms of being able to be a world-class athlete. So if you want to be a world-class coach, you embrace what the Bible teaches us. You take what you're going to do and you give it to the Lord. You pray, God, show me, teach me, guide me. You want to mitigate your challenges and learn from the ones that you do have. And I'm telling you, you embrace that, you'll be in the top 3% of all business coaches. If you're considering, becoming a business coach, you've thought about it for a long time. You want to empower others to help them build their business. You want to make a good living at the same time. You want to make a significant impact on others. But you don't know where to start. You can go to businesscoachmastery.com. That's businesscoachmastery.com. There's some resources there. There's an opportunity to be able to chat if you want to have a conversation on what that looks like, and we'll go from there. Okay? Until next time, take care.